Well, you slipped through the fissure too, did you? You came for demon souls? Or to save this land and be remembered as a hero?
If you ask 10 different people how this year was for them, you'd get 10 completely different answers. And that's fine. This year was odd, it was a struggle for many people, and let's just say it was one of the strangest years we've ever had. But one of the things that really remained a constant for me personally, and for a lot of people that I've talked to, is that good quality video games released this year. And in some cases they released in a very large quantity. I really enjoyed this year in terms of video games, and it's one of the things that has been able to take all of our minds off certain situations. And that's something we can always praise video games for. While some video game companies strive to not be that moral when it comes to releasing video games, some video game companies continue just to release great games that everyone can enjoy. Everyone of course has different opinions on this. Some games that I will talk about here probably won't be that great in people's eyes, but to me, they were pretty good. Today I want to talk about 14 games that released this year, or were re-released this year, that I really loved. I feel so lucky that I was able to play all these games, and I'm very grateful that I was able to experience a lot of these games. I won't be revealing what is my favorite of all these games, because I'm going to be doing that during my own personal Game Awards video that I'm going to be doing towards the end of the month.
Where'd you get that? I can't remember the last time I saw a real one. Huh? How sweet. When did you get so thoughtful?
Animal Crossing New Horizons. This is my first ever Animal Crossing game, and I'm not sure if I even would have played it if I didn't get it right at the start of lockdown. I had so much free time on my hand that this game became like a companion for like 2 straight weeks. The thing is about Animal Crossing New Horizons is that it's not really a goal-driven game, but I am a goal-driven person when it comes to video games. I like to have a beginning and I like to have an end, which is probably why I'm so into Persona in a lot of ways, is because even though you can do all the casual stuff like hanging out with people, drinking coffee, going to the gym, you can do that, but there's also like an end goal in mind. Now, that's not a mark against Animal Crossing, it's just a thing that it's not a game that was designed for a person like me. But even with that, I had so much fun playing this game, and it deserves to be recognized as one of the best games this year. I remember playing this game and just getting completely lost in my own community, in my own island. And my island being actually pretty distinctive from other people's islands, which I didn't think it was. I was worried that it wouldn't be, but people came to my island and were like, oh, this is like a retirement village. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm going for. Oh my god, people understood it. I built a cafe in the middle of the island. I put my shop on the beach, which felt so cool. I loved having that shop on the beach. And it really just felt like a quiet little neighborhood that I built on this island. And I started to grow attached to all my villagers. I started to grow attached to my own character. It got to the stage in this game that honestly, I went from being ashamed to show anyone my island to having no problem having anyone visit. I really do love the mechanics of this game. I love how casual it is. And honestly, it's one of those games that nowadays I can just go back to at any point.
Carlos, you didn't even think to ask fine young lady her name? She is an elite operative of RPD, Special Tactics and Rescue Service. Her name is something Valentine.
It's Jill.
Nice to meet you, Jill.
Resident Evil 3. If anyone knows me personally, they might know that Resident Evil is one of my favorite franchises of all time. In fact, it's my favorite horror franchise. And not just a horror game franchise, horror franchise. I love Resident Evil, the Resident Evil games, and I think that they don't get a lot of credit all the time for the massive amount of quality that they release in their games, and also the groundbreaking mechanics and styles that they really started and perfected in a lot of ways as well. Would we really have as many over-the-shoulder camera games without Resident Evil 4? Probably, but it's one of those games that really perfected that style. You look at survival horror and that's what I think of, Resident Evil. The thing about Resident Evil 3 is that it's a remake of a classic game. And I think a lot of people have a lot of opinions on this, and I do myself. I have a lot of problems with this game, but honestly, it's still a pretty great game. One of the things I wanted from Resident Evil 3 was just to have a fast-paced game with Jill Valentine in it, and they really gave me that. It's been a while since we've had a Jill Valentine starring game, And it's one of the things that I really wish for in the future, is just a Jill Valentine standalone game. Just give me a Jill Valentine standalone game. And they really kind of in a way delivered on that. Jill Valentine is at her best here, her best since probably Resident Evil 3, the original Resident Evil 3, going around Raccoon City trying to escape, but really just being an awesome character like she always was. I was really worried about this interpretation of Jill, but they did a really fantastic job of creating Jill Valentine in a modern sense, because even though the original Jill Valentine will always be what I see when I think of Jill Valentine, this is exactly the interpretation of Jill Valentine I would think of when they were recreating her. They did such a perfect job, and the voice actress Nicole Tompkins also did a fantastic job as well. The only issues I have with this game arise from Nemesis, which is actually a pretty big deal. Nemesis in the original game was a really kind of like scary presence that would show up like it felt like random, even though it wasn't always random. In the newer game, he's way too cinematic in a way. He kind of like shows up in cutscenes, and it's less scary because it doesn't feel spontaneous. And it gets to the stage where Nemesis stops being scary and it's just like, oh, it's him again. I guess I gotta fight him. Which is the opposite of what you want. I also think that the introduction of Carlos could have been a bit better. I don't think he's a terrible character like a lot of people think I think he is. I don't think he's a terrible character at all, but I think he served his purpose. But for me, this is like Jill's game. This is like how she shines, and that's what I wanted from this game. It's a short game, but it's a really good game as well. Is it as good as the original Resident Evil 2 remake? No, but like that game is one of the greatest horror games ever made. But Resident Evil 3 is still pretty fantastic.
Long ago, the world was nothing more than an endless sea, cloaked in a boundless sky, reaching as far as could possibly be imagined.
Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. How do you take a classic that I loved, and make it even better? You make Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I was stunned and in awe when I saw this trailer originally, and I'm so glad to say that this game is the way you play Xenoblade. While there's a lot of people who might believe that the original is just better, and that's fine. If you prefer the visuals in the older game, if you prefer how the game looks or feels, I'm not going to tell you wrong because you're not wrong. It's all down to opinion. But with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, I really felt like they made the visuals look gorgeous in this game, to the point that it's so easy to look at. There's nothing out of place. It's just really gorgeous. But on top of all that, they really took the same story, which by the way is fantastic. I'm not going to spoil a thing about it. You should actually see it. It's a fantastic story. It's a magical story. It's a beautiful story of like friendship, loss, hurt, and pain. It's so beautiful. They took this amazing story and they just give it better side quests. The side quests are the same, but now the side quests are way more manageable. Side quests in this game are no longer an issue, and the way I know this is that my original playthrough of Xenoblade was 80 hours. My new playthrough was 50 hours because I knew where every single side quest was. There wasn't a thing of just randomly going around collecting items. I was able to find everything right then and there, and to me that's much better. Of course, the biggest thing about Xenoblade always will be the scenery. No open world game does scale like Xenoblade does. It is scary, and I say scary because you look up to the sky and you see these big mountains, and it's like, holy crap, that is incredibly high up. And then you look down from that mountain down below, and it's like, holy crap, this is really high up. And I really think that that's one of the reasons why Breath of the Wild is so good as well, because the same team that worked on Xenoblade also helped work on the open world of Breath of the Wild, and that's why Breath of the Wild scale is also superb as well.
Yes, I see. That is unfortunate. You should know that you will be imprisoned in the Nexus forever. Just like the poor Candle Maiden.
The Demon Souls remake. What can you say about the Demon Souls remake? I'll be the first to admit that the Bluepoint remake of Shadow of the Colossus left a lot to be desired for me personally. Shadow of the Colossus is my favorite game of all time, and to me the best version of that game is still on the PlayStation 3. But that's not an insult to Bluepoint. Bluepoint did a fantastic job with Shadow of the Colossus. It's just, it really didn't feel like the same vibes, and vibes are so important to me, just like art style is, just like all of that is. But Bluepoint really kind of knocked it out of the park mechanically and in many ways with Demon Souls, and many other ways with Demon Souls. The Demon Souls original was a difficult remake to make, because it is a game that is not loved by many, but the people that do love it will like die for it. They think it's the greatest thing ever made, and I was one of those people that just loved this game to death. So when they were remaking the game, I was so worried, but at the same time, the difference between remaking Shadow of the Colossus and remaking Demon's Souls is apparent. Demon's Souls, the original, is a flawed masterpiece. It's an incredibly flawed masterpiece. We have to just admit this. Shadow of the Colossus, to me, was a perfect game, so it's a bit different, right? You know, it's a completely different thing. But Demon's Souls, the remake, they take a lot of the stuff that may have seemed kind of like dirty or grimy, stuff that like visually and like even with frame rates kind of like dragged down the game a tiny bit, even though it was a superb game, and just made it really, really easy to play. The 60 frames per second 1440p mode in this game, like I wasn't a believer until I saw it, because I planned to play this in true 4K. I was like, no, I'm bringing this up to 60 FPS. It's freaking gorgeous in 60 FPS. It's crazy. The only real issues I have with Demon's Souls and the remake of Demon's Souls is that the music was changed to the point that it doesn't feel like Demon's Souls. And if that's what they were going for, that's great, but the vibes of the game completely changed. Some boss battles, in fact, no longer feel that threatening because of the music change. And you guys know how important music is, and you know, because I've talked about this many times with you guys. Can you imagine in Twilight Princess if they changed the music that plays when Wolf Link is carrying the pale Midna across the field? You know, can you imagine if that music changed? Can you imagine if they no longer had Midna's Lament? The game completely changes. The game completely changes because of the tone of the music. And I think that the music really was a big issue in the remake. The other issue I had is that the palace is overgrown, but it's all on fire. I don't understand that. What happened there? Like, they let it go overgrown, but they're still starting fires. Okay, enough like little nitpicks aside. This is a gorgeous remake. I've played it 4 times now, and I really think that this is the definitive way to play Demon's Souls now. A lot of people might disagree with me, but I really think I can't go back to the original Demon's Souls, even though Demon's Souls has better music. It's really difficult for me to not play this version of the game. It's really great. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4. Man, what can I say about this game series? Trails of Cold Steel is one of the most intricate and detailed game series I've ever played. Over the course of 4 games, they have paid off so much that honestly, I think they just have so much respect for their fan base that play these games. To have a protagonist like Rean Schwarzer go on this journey that is completely deserved and earned is nothing short of amazing. These characters in these games are so distinctive and fight in their own distinctive way, to the point that their weapons and moves are all tailored to their own personalities and backstories. It's crazy. In this game, Trails of Cold Steel 4, you'll have like 20 to 24 to 25 party members at any time that you can choose from to put on your team. While that may seem like too much, you've learned so much about these characters through the course of the 4 games that honestly, you'll have your favorites and you'll pick your favorites and you'll go along with them on this journey. And they also give you mandatory party members at times too, to let you like learn more about these party members also. Trails of Cold Steel 4 took risks, but they all paid off. It was emotional to end this beautiful JRPG with this amazing battle system. I was in tears at the end of this game, bawling my eyes out, hegging, honestly bawling into my arm, the sleeve of my hoodie. I was so upset at the end of this game because I realized what was happening. This is the last time I'm going to see a lot of these characters. This is the last time I'm going to get to say hi to these characters. This is the last time for a lot of these characters that I'm going to get to hang out with them. This is the last battle I've had with a lot of these characters. And games like this truly do break my heart. And that's why I love them. Paper Mario Origami King. To me, the word underrated gets thrown around so much, but I don't care. This game is underrated. It is a game that if there was no other Paper Mario games, I truly believe that this game would be more highly rated. Now here's the thing, does the game have flaws? Of course, but like the thing is, like, I'm never going to diminish your opinion when it comes to like flaws or things that you don't like about the game. But I gotta speak from the heart. And for me personally, I did not have a moment of downtime in this game. This game is so much fun to play. But like the best thing about this game is well, there's 2 great things about this game. The first thing is visually it is gorgeous. It is one of the prettiest games that I've ever seen in my life. And the second thing, Olivia. Out of nowhere, Nintendo creates a new character this year. Intelligent Systems designed a new character this year. And already it's in one of my top 10, favorite Nintendo characters of all time. Easily. The emotions you go through with this character, the life that you get to see, and the backstory that you get to see from this character, honestly, it brings a whole new life to the word companion. Because while companions can sometimes be annoying, sometimes they can be overbearing, Olivia is nothing of the sort. You really get to learn about the world as she is learning about the world as well. And that's a special thing that, like, honestly, like, I think we should never take for granted characters like that. Because sometimes when you're in a world, you're traveling around with a dude who knows absolutely everything. To be with a character who knows barely anything, and you're learning with them, is a true experience. The boss battles to me in this game are really fun. I love the combat system as well. I know a lot of people don't like the combat system. I loved exploring in this game. I love doing this fun side stuff. I think the world is explorable without being overbearing. And what I mean by that is it's fun to go around the place and find different things, go into different places, explore places. But I never felt like, oh man, there's too much to do on this map. And when I get to that point in any game, there's too much to do on this map, at that point I check out. For me personally, I just go, okay, I'm just going to do what I can. In this game, it really felt like you could just do everything, and it never felt overbearing. I really enjoyed my time with this game, and I played it on the channel with a blind playthrough, and another game where I kind of like was moved to tears, because it's very emotional.
I don't know what happened. I was supposed to take her to the Fireflies and walk away. You go halfway across the country with someone.
This is going to be controversial, but The Last of Us Part 2, I gotta put it here. For anyone who's going to call me a fanboy, The Last of Us Part 1, I was not a fan of, at all. Not a game that I liked, personally at all. But I played The Last of Us Part 2 because my friend, Ash, she told me that she thinks that I would actually like it because it seemed more suited to the things that I like. And I played this game and I really loved it. And I don't want to talk too much about this because The Last of Us Part 2 has become such a controversial topic online, and it's kind of a heartbreaking thing that some games nowadays you just can't talk about because it gets too controversial. All I say is that me, Calvin, Romer, personally, Calvin, me, my opinion, me, me, not you, you don't have to like it, me. I like it. I like it a lot. I liked it a lot. It's still the prettiest game I've ever played in terms of graphics. I think there's prettier art styles out there, but in terms of graphics, I think this is one of the prettiest games I've ever played. I played it twice this year, and while I do have a lot of issues with it, I think the last 3 hours of the game could have been cut down tremendously. I think that they tripped towards the end of the game, but then picked themselves back up and have a really neat little ending. I have other issues with the game, like sometimes yes, can the game be a bit long? Of course. But to me, I had a very emotional connection to this game. But again, I don't want the hassle of freaking arguing about The Last of Us Part 2. I really don't want the hassle of it. So I'm just gonna say that I personally like this game. I thought it was really great. The only thing that I do want to say for sure is that for me, you can tell I'm using for me all the time because people get confused for some reason online. I felt an emotional connection to the characters in this game and how they turned my idea of these characters on their head. This game is not deep or doesn't have a deep story. It's not a story that you have to think about. It's a story that's on the nose. It's there in front of you. And I think that's one thing people always mistake when they talk to me about Last of Us Part 2. They say the story isn't that deep. They just think it's deep. I don't think it's deep, but it's still a story that explores characters that I like. And that's all I'll say about it.
What's up with you? I just get this weird feeling sometimes. Like something's off. What the? Going to school, living my life. It's like I'm not supposed to be here. You've seen too many movies, man.
13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. This is a special game. This is a game that I picked up because I watched a review of it on Easy Allies, and I didn't expect to be this into this type of game. But this game is so engrossing and honestly will draw you in almost instantly. From the moment I finished the first kind of story in the game, that's kind of like cut up into different chapters, I was like, I need to know more about each of these characters. They do a really fantastic job of integrating each character into each story and giving so many good twists and turns to each story that it never feels boring. You can spend some time just talking with the same character over and over again, and I never once was like, oh, hurry this up, please, can you move this along? Even though there's no combat in the actual main part of the story, there is combat in the game, of course. It's just moving around talking to people, like an old point-and-click adventure, but you're actually moving around in it. I think that the story of every character in this game is so interesting. To be able to talk to any of these characters is a beautiful thing. But the fact that we get to play a game like this in 2020 is pretty crazy. I played it just as I was going back to work for the first time, so I was playing it every evening. And it's not the biggest shock I've had this year, but it was a pretty big shock. The art style of this game is superb. I don't think I've seen a better art style this year. It's gorgeous. One of the things that was really striking about it is how they're able to use these kind of hand-drawn, kind of painted characters, and after a while make it feel like it's a real believable world. I just really love the characters, I really love the art style, I love the story, I love where it goes, I love how dark and brooding it gets, I love the connection that other characters have to other characters from the future and the past. I think that it's a really fantastic game and one of the best stories, and I think probably the best story that I played this year. There we go, I'm giving away an award already. It's one of the best stories that I played this year, and it deserves all the credit in the world.
Maybe you're not okay. Ah, he lives. Finally awake, are we?
You're...
Aerith. It's Aerith. And you are?
Cloud.
Nice to meet you again.
Again, huh?
Final Fantasy VII Remake. Jesus Christ, dude. This game came out of nowhere into my heart. Honestly, it was a game that I was pretty excited for, but I didn't expect to get this emotionally invested. I'm pretty into Final Fantasy. It's one of my favorite franchises. But I didn't know how connected I was going to get to these characters. It got to the point that the character Aerith, it's hard for me to not see her for a long time, because I just love her as a character. I think she's an amazing, beautiful soul, and most of the characters in this game are. I think they did a really fantastic job with this remake. There are some stuff that I would change. I think that the chapter, I believe it's chapter 17, can get a little long in the tooth sometimes, and over chapter 18. But I think besides all that, if on a second playthrough it's not nearly as long. It's just a very long sequence the first time you go through it. The combat in this game when it comes to boss battles is so cool. So many other people have talked about this. Maximilian Dude, Easy Allies, everyone's talked about this under the blue in the face. The boss battles in this game are so much fun, to the point that I have a save file before every single boss battle, just in case I want to go back and fight any of them. That's how good the boss battles are in this game. Leveling up your character, which by the way I got all my characters to max level, so I can't wait for the new remake part to come out. Growing with these characters, hanging out with these characters, getting small little moments with these characters, which by the way are my favorite parts of the game. Being able to just walk around the place and hear some little dialogue from Tifa, or from Aerith, or from Barrett. It's really special. It's a really special feeling. And I think that, of course, you can say visually there's some stuff that's very weird. There's a lot of textures that are not loaded in at all in this game. I think that you can also say about this game that a lot of people didn't like where the story ended up. And that's also perfectly fine. For me, I'm not arguing anything to do with that. For me, mostly I'm just saying that I personally felt a weird emotional connection to this game. I paused the game before I ended the boss battle. I texted my friend Tom, and I said, I don't know if I can finish this game. I beat the boss and I paused the game right away. But of course I had to finish this game. And I finished this game twice more this year. I finished Final Fantasy VII Remake 3 times this year. So you can get a grasp of how much I love it. I will say as well that this game I feel brought me closer to my friends as well. Because I feel around this time I started talking to them a lot more about this game. And that's something I can never thank this game enough for.
I'm responsible for crushing that dream.
Persona 5 Royal. If you guys have heard me in the past talk about Persona, this is my favorite franchise. Easily. And I know what the Shin Megami Tensei fans are going to say. Play a real Shin Megami Tensei game. I have played other Shin Megami Tensei games, guys. Just because you think Persona's not as good as other Shin Megami Tensei games doesn't mean it's not good. It's a fantastic series. Persona 5 Royal took a game that I thought was like a 10 out of 10 game and was like, oh, how about we break the scale? How do we make this game even better? One of the opinions that I always hear is that this game should have been DLC. And while I understand what you're saying, adding 37 hours of extra content for me, 40 hours of extra content for me, 3 new characters, a whole new soundtrack into this game, along with new side activities, new things to buy, new things to do, a whole new area that you can go to, I don't think that's DLC. That sounds like a game to me, especially with what they were able to add to this game, especially with the little tweaks as well. They really did make this game kind of like perfected in a lot of ways for me personally. I think that Daki Ito, who came in and directed this game, did a fantastic job. She had a big task ahead of her. She had to take this game that has been directed beautifully, and the series has been directed beautifully for years, and try to make something gorgeous out of it. And if you've played Persona 5 Royal, you know that the story goes places that can be described as beautifully tragic. It is a tragic game. Of course, in this game, some of the best aspects of this game are just hanging out with your friends, getting to like play in certain side activities, going through beautiful, immaculate dungeons that are honestly just like some of the most fun dungeons I've ever played in. But there is a very big emotional weight to this game. They want you to get attached to these characters, just like you did in Persona 4, just like you did in Persona 3, just like you did in Persona 2. Not a massive fan of Persona 1, but those other games, they want you to get attached to these characters so that eventually, like you know, that if something does happen, or if you ever have to leave, or if maybe you have to go, or whatever, you know that at the end of this game when the credits roll, you're just gonna miss these characters. This is another game that I've played 3 times this year, and I've played I think 5 times in total if you count the other Persona 5 original version. I just can't put this game down, and I never get tired of this game either. This game is also gorgeous. It has 4K graphics on it, which at first I didn't really think was going to make a big difference. The lighting in this game is gorgeous. The scenery in this game is gorgeous. During the daytime, it's really noticeable. It's amazing. It's honestly one of the prettiest games ever. And of course, it has amazing music, amazing characters. It's beautiful in both dub and sub. There's so many things I can say about this game. I cry during a few games. A lot of people think I cry during every game. It's not true. Like literally, like I said, like only like 4 games on this list. At the end of this game as well, of course, like I think my like sleeve again was just soaked in tears. I couldn't handle it. Pikmin 3 Deluxe. This is a game that you can get my thoughts on in many different videos, but this is a game that was a surprise to me, and it was a surprise to almost everyone else as well who really got into this series this year. I've said a lot through the entire Let's Play, and I don't want to bog people down with how I feel about Pikmin 3, but I will say this. I grew attached to my Pikmin. To the point that, like, I cared about them. I didn't want them to die. I didn't want them to be hurt. And that's something I didn't expect. I didn't know what to expect going into this game, and I say it's always going to be the biggest surprise of 2020, and it truly is. I really hope that if people haven't played Pikmin 3 Deluxe at any point, or haven't played Pikmin, that they will pick this game up. I love the scenery in this game. I love exploring in this game. I love making mistakes in this game. I love fighting bosses in this game. It is truly one of my favorite games that have come out this year, and one of my favorite re-releases that I've ever seen on the Switch. Can you imagine this year if I didn't play Pikmin 3? I'd have a whole different outlook on everything. On everything. Because it was one of the biggest games for my channel this year as well. And I just gotta say I'm incredibly grateful.
Why is it so attached to me? Whatever could you be, little one?
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, another game that you can find all my thoughts on the channel, so I don't want to ramble on too much about this. But this is a game that is Zelda's game. They gave everything they could for the character of Zelda this year. To the point that, like, I know some people don't like this style of gameplay, but people have been asking for a Zelda-focused Zelda game forever. I hear it every year. Can we play as Zelda? Can we do this with Zelda? This is the game. It took them not making a mainline Zelda game and not having the name called The Legend of Zelda to make a game about Zelda and her journey and her growth and her feelings about things. And honestly, they do it with such grace and almost perfection. I don't want to say perfection because, like, obviously, like, every game has, like, certain flaws in some way, shape, or form. But, like, this is just such a freaking amazing experience that I played through this game. I understand the criticism that this game, sometimes the missions can feel kind of samey. This is going to be such an easy cop-out to make, but war is kind of samey. You know what I mean? Battles are kind of samey. You're going to be battling through these same type of battles. But the thing is, the thing that break up the kind of like same battles is if you choose different characters. And I did that a lot. I used Impa, Zelda, Link, and Mipha as my main characters. And I tried other characters too, but those were the main characters. And swapping in between them meant the gameplay never really felt boring. The cutscenes in this game are gorgeous. Again, like I said, they really focus a lot on Zelda, and because of that, I'm incredibly grateful because of it.
これがシャバ最後の飯かもしれねえからな。
And lastly, Yakuza Like a Dragon. Yakuza is a series that means the world to me. I have played every single mainline Yakuza game, and I am emotionally attached to almost every character. So when you come along and you say, hey, here's the new protagonist of the series that you love, it can go down any other way. It can go down any way. Thankfully, it went down like a cool glass of milk. Sorry for anyone who doesn't like milk, but like Yakuza Like a Dragon is one of my favorite Japanese RPGs and one of my favorite games ever. I think it easily moved up into my top 20 favorite games of all time. Ichiban is the perfect protagonist to take this series along with them. And the reason I say that is because while Kazuma Kiryu was a very tough and emotional character at the same time, he didn't really wear his heart on his sleeve. You have a character that's almost the polar opposite in Ichiban, who really is a character who will let you know if he loves you. You know, he'll say it. Like, if you're on the first date and he falls in love, he's gonna say it. If you're his friend, you better believe you're getting 50 hugs a day. Like, this is Ichiban. This is who he is as a character, which makes him so well suited for the Yakuza series, in my opinion, because there's so many dark and evil characters. So he was such a good polar opposite to all of them. I think the turn-based combat is something that I'm really excited to see more of. I hope they do more of for Ichiban. I think it worked so well. Some people felt like it didn't work, like that it was a bit slow, and sometimes it just didn't work in practice. And I can understand what people are saying. I think that they need to implement, for the next game, they probably need to implement a system where weaker characters run away from you. It's just JRPG 101, but they didn't do that this time. The side quests are so much fun to play in this game. The world is gorgeous to play in this game. It's kind of crazy how Yakuza can make you feel for the worst type of people. And that's what they do in this game. But I think that the cast and the party members in this game, like, really... I'm gonna get killed by Yakuza fans, but to me, this is my favorite Yakuza game ever. Taking Yakuza Kiwami 2 from the top spot. And I know that's sacrilegious, but that's just how I feel about this. It is a truly fantastic game. I feel kind of weird putting Super Mario Sunshine in here, as I haven't actually finished the entire 3D All-Star Collection, and it is one release that is released this year. But it would be kind of strange as well to go this whole time without saying a word about this game. I had one of the most enjoyable times I've ever had with a platformer. And like I've said many times before with Super Mario Sunshine, it has given me the courage to move on with games. And what I mean by that is I never really played platformers, apart from maybe Crash and Spyro, because I was too terrified. I was too terrified to play it on the channel. Because I knew for a fact that if I got so much worse than I thought I even was, and I thought I was really bad, that I wouldn't even be able to like show my face ever again. But Super Mario Sunshine is a game that you can get better at with time. It's a game where jumps are exhilarating. I was excited through this game to play this game. Every single moment I was like, I can't wait to play this hard part, especially when it came to the floodless levels. The floodless levels allowed me to gain more courage when it came to platformers, and allowed me now to put a lot of platformers on my Let's Play list of games that I want to play in the future. My heart was truly pounding through the majority of this game. Even some of the levels that people believe to be some of the most frustrating ones were frustrating, but I kind of like that in a way. It was really exciting to be frustrated, and it was really exciting to try and like face this uphill battle every single episode. And I truly believe that this game has changed my entire perception of Mario platformers. I freaking love this game. This is an incredibly long video, guys. If you stuck true for the whole video, then thank you very much. I just wanted to talk about these games before I actually released them in practice, but honestly, it's been an amazing year for video games, and I didn't want to leave any video games out. I think they all deserve to be talked about, and because of that, please tell me what you enjoyed this year. Please tell me which video games you thought were amazing. Please tell me if you thought I was wrong about any video games in this list. If you do, that's fine as well. I love to have discourse like that and conversations like that. And I will see you all very soon.